Living according to the principles of salat and zakat calls for self-discipline. This is strengthened through the observance of fasting. Sawm requires Muslims to observe a fast during the daylight hours each day during the 9th month of the Muslim calendar called Ramadan. This month is particularly sacred to Muslims because it was toward its end, in 610, that the Qur'an was first sent down as guidance for all humanity. The Qur'an establishes the moon as the measure of time, and thus Islam follows the lunar calendar, so that each year is approximately 11 days shorter than a solar year. Each month begins as soon as the new moon is sighted, so this can vary from one area and community to another. As it is based on the lunar cycle, Ramadan moves forward each year when compared to the solar calendar. The number of hours of daylight and the daytime temperature can vary significantly through the seasons. Hence, the observance of Sawm can be more or less demanding according to the time of year and place on earth. However, no matter what season it happens to fall in, the fasting during Ramadan is the same. It strictly prohibits Muslims from eating, drinking, smoking, or engaging in sexual activities from before dawn, first light, in the morning, until after sunset at night. Ramadan is about obedience to the requirements of God and discipline, so people are not allowed to take it to extremes. Muslims are not allowed to extend the fast. They must eat after sunset, or to observe it if it would do serious damage to their health. Some categories of people are exempt. If people are seriously ill, too old, or too young, they must not fast. Those travelling further than a short distance are exempt. Even so, the elderly often continue observing Sawm well into old age. Young children don't want to feel left out, and so are gradually introduced by their parents when the time is right. Women do not fast when it could endanger their health, for example, during their periods, pregnancy, or whilst breastfeeding. Those who are travelling, suffering temporary illness, and women during their periods make up the missed days at a later date. Why is fasting so important? For one thing, it is commanded by the Qur'an. But this is not because Islam condemns eating, drinking, and sex. Far from it. They are accepted as natural and good. However, they are very powerful drives, and in showing that we can control them, we demonstrate that we have the willpower to control other aspects of our lives. But fasting has many other benefits. It strengthens us against any future privations. It prevents us from taking the good things in life for granted, and it allows us better to empathize with the poor and unfortunate people in the world for whom deprivation is a permanent experience. However, the positive effects of the fasting of Ramadan are much more wide-reaching. It is a time when the whole Muslim community is united. Families help one another through the hardest times. It's a time for healing old disputes and looking forward to a better future. People reflect on their actions, facing up to their faults and failings and seeking forgiveness. The overall effect also is to stimulate the individual's awareness of God in their lives and reinforce their sense of living in harmony with God and all creation.
Fasting is an institution that has been there since day one. All major religions have fasting as part of their spiritual growth. So it's something that teaches self-control and empathy with people who have less to depend on in terms of food and other provisions. So it's almost like a spiritual stock taking annually. And therefore, by going through that, hopefully a person who has fasted will have built up more spiritual energy for the coming year. It's also a spiritual networking, because you are aware that you have more than 1 billion Muslims around the world who are also fasting. So it refreshes your own spiritual growth. So it's a very important institution in Islam.
It could be said that Ramadan itself every year is a good opportunity to clean up the heart, or I could say even to defrost the fridge. And in some way, it makes you take some very distance in relation to your own life. Why do we have to eat? Why do we have to drink? Why can't we just carry on fasting and go, die in some way? I have that feeling. Why is it important to come back? And then we see the wisdom of the religion, which tells us, no, it was an exercise of obedience, because the fast is for the Lord. It was an exercise of discipline, but it cannot take you away from everyday life, from the responsibilities that you have in the society. It can give you an idea of another form of life where you will not be so much depending on your body, but at the moment you are still in this life, and you will have to carry on facing all the responsibilities that you have vis-à-vis yourself, vis-à-vis your family, vis-à-vis your environment, the society in which you live. So Ramadan cannot take you away from those responsibilities. It can in some way re-enable you to face them better, because the fridge has been defrosted.
After sunset, the fast is over. At the appointed time, people must break their fast by eating and drinking. This is called iftar. If they are at work, they will take time off to eat, drink and pray. Often friends will be invited for a communal meal, or they will gather in mosques. The nights during the month of Ramadan are also important. They are given over to additional prayers, and especially the recitation of the Qur'an. The month is divided into 3/3, each devoted to a special theme: mercy, forgiveness, and salvation from hellfire. The Sunnis have the practice during these nights of special congregational prayers, during which 1/30 of the Qur'an is recited each night. The Shia do this Qur'an recitation in families or other groups, in mosques or elsewhere, and do the prayers individually. Fasting during Ramadan is obligatory for Muslims, but many fast voluntarily at other times. For example, they may follow the practice of Muhammad, who often fasted for 3 days each month.
The month of Ramadan is entirely blessed with the blessings of God. It is a month of spiritual delight. In that month, we witness enhanced solidarity within the community, praying together, worshipping together, reciting and listening of Qur'an together, and in fact, eating together at the time of breaking the fast, which is iftar. Ramadan also provides us an opportunity during the last 10 days of performing itikaf, which is retreat to the mosque, which is an occasion of intense reflection and devotion and seeking forgiveness and guidance from Almighty God. We have on the 27th of night, Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, when Muslims celebrate the revelation, the beginning of the revelation of the holy book, Qur'an. So it is a great month of spiritual festivities and entertainment.
The end of fasting is a cause for great celebrations. It's the occasion of the festival of fast breaking, or Eid al-Fitr. Muslims take a day off work or school. Because the date is fixed by the sighting of the new moon, and there can be variations in this, employers might need to be flexible in allowing the holiday. In celebration, everyone takes a shower and puts on clean clothes. They take breakfast after sunrise and assemble in a large mosque or open place for Eid prayers. They exchange greetings, and then there's a special meal and visits are made to friends and relatives, including the graves of relatives. Presents are given, especially to children, and people engage in all manner of sports and games.